Hey, what's going on? It is your boy, Coach Frank, back with the Make It Make Sense podcast after a very long hiatus. I wouldn't go very long, that's an exaggeration. But I did take some time off. Like I said, I'm kind of getting used to this podcast thing and making sure that I deliver quality content. But I think in the midst of that, the problem was that I wasn't delivering quality me and understanding exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. You know, I will say that. But let's see. But what have I been doing? My girlfriend and I recently went to San Francisco. Definitely. Um, Look, I'm from Florida, so I'm used to like a different type of like scenery in life. And although I've been in Arizona for a long time, I'm still used to like Arizona scenery also. So when I go to like cities, like like cities, like when they have like the high rises and stuff like that, it is just amazing to me, like how people live like that. It is just I don't know. And then like San Francisco, like they got these inclines and these declines, and it is bananas, but, I got to see the Golden Gate Bridge. We went up north, to Humboldt County. I know it's, pretty familiar, and we went to the Redwoods and did some hiking. My girlfriend and I, if you don't know, we really like, national and state parks. So we're really trying to do as many national state parks and things like that as we can around the country. We've done a few. We've done quite a few. I think more than 10, more than 10 over here on the West Coast. But anyway, um, we did Redwood, which was amazing because I think a year or 2 years ago we did Sequoia. So I mean, just amazing works of natural art. Just what nature has done. Uh, Absolutely amazing. And then while up in, I guess that's Northern California, we did a Laysan National Forest as well. Um, Volcanic National Forest. And what's crazy about that is like they still had snow. Like we were coming from Arizona, we'd already had like a few maybe a few high 80, maybe 90-degree days. And like we're like walking through this trail and it's like literally like feet, at least 12 inches of snow like on the ground. Like you're walking through and I'm thinking it's the ground and it's like maybe like a small layer of snow over it. But like so I went on and walked in like I sunk down in it like half to my shin. I'm 6'2". So yeah, that was wild. Um but a whole lot of fun. Came back down because what we flew to San Francisco, hung out there for like Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, drove up north. Um, Hung out there Thursday. Man, a bunch of days, I guess, because we came back down to Santa Clara on, I believe, Tuesday and went to Levi Stadium, home of the 49ers. And I have been a lifelong fan of the San Francisco 49ers, and that was my first time ever seeing the stadium. So it was absolutely amazing. Um, so the whole trip in general was fun. Like I tell people, like one of the goals my girlfriend and I had when we got together was like just to make memories. So, if you've ever seen my Instagram or see us on there, like, we do like to get out and do like things we don't and to be honest, like we don't recognize that we're doing things. It's just stuff that happens. So we're out there. So what else is new with me? Oh, I'm also a fan of the San Antonio Spurs. So, big news was Coach Greg Popovich stepping away from the bench. Man, it's wild because I remember when he first became the coach of San Antonio. And it's weird, people will always ask me, Frank, you're from Oviedo, Florida. Like, how are you a San Antonio Spurs fan? And I'm like, well, when I was a kid, my grandmother gave me a David Robinson basketball. I wasn't big into basketball at the time, but she was my grandmother. I loved her to death. She was my favorite grandmother. So I David Robinson became my favorite basketball player. San Antonio Spurs became my team, and it's been that way my entire life. Till this day, David Robinson is my favorite basketball player. He um, that's just it. And the Spurs are my favorite team. I've tried liking other teams when we have down years. Never works. Never works. I just always go back to my teams. I'm just loyal to the teams I like, to the sport. But being a sports fan, people ask me at the beginning of sports seasons, what do I think is going to happen? But I always have two answers because it's in context. Like if you ask me at the beginning of the NFL season, who's going to win the Super Bowl? I say, well, as a Niner fan, the Niners are going to win. Why? Because they're the Niners. And then if you ask me as a football fan, I'll give my honest opinion on whatever team I think is, probably the best at that particular time, or whatever the two or three top teams are at that time. I am real about it, but, I do just wish my teams would win every year. But understanding competition, I unfortunately, it just can't be that way. Sometimes mistakes are made and other teams win. It just happens. But okay, so now that we are all caught up, let's get into today's episode. And it is, if you know me, you know how the level of importance I place on your mindset, on your fitness journey, and with anything in life. Your body will not do anything your mind doesn't want it to do. And those two forces do battle, but the goal is to bring those two forces together to move forward in progress for anything you're doing. Let your mind and body work together, right? So you'll understand that the topic for today's episode is why you're stuck. It's not the workout, it's your mindset. All right. So I'm gonna go over like three of the the biggest hurdles, or the biggest problems, and then give like some context and ways to help you overcome those things, right? One of the most common things that I hear a lot is that people flip-flop through workout programs. I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried that. Um, in my system, I do have programs that are already set, but I also like to customize. And if I customize someone's program, I just simply name it their name, right? Because no matter what the workout is, you have to have one goal. And so when you don't have a goal, you're able to flip flop through certain workouts and go through that roller coaster because you haven't found your true goal. Like, one of the questions I always ask my clients before we start their program is, what is your honest motivation? Meaning, why is it that you want to put yourself in the position to whereas you're going to be held accountable for the choices you make based on your activities and based on the food you eat? Like, what is the thing that is going to get you through that? And I know people say, motivation isn't real and stuff like that, but there is an honest motivation. There is an internal desire to make you complete certain tasks. Um, so I remember once when, well, I'll just say myself, um, people see me now and they think, I've been fit my whole life, or I was this type of an athlete when I was younger. And to be honest, like I wasn't. I was 140 pounds when I graduated high school. So I was 18 years old, over 6 feet, and I was 140 pounds. So like, I wasn't this crazy athlete. Um, I wasn't this big guy or anything like that. Um, I even tried working out in college, didn't work out. The most I ever got into is maybe 178 pounds or something like that. Um, Talked about the story before. A situation happened. I was rear-ended by a drunk driver. Ended up with two bulging discs in my lower back. So of course, through the process of that healing recovery, I lost even more weight. And if you're only 178 pounds, you really don't have a lot of weight to lose. But I lost it, And so I was like down to about 140, 150, 145. Around the 140, I know I saw 140 and I was an adult. I was a grown, I was like 30 years old. And but so and following that, I wasn't, living healthy in regards to my accident. I wasn't eating well, things like that. So the doctors told me, if I didn't, straighten up, then I'd have to have back surgery. So, that should have been a motivating factor. And it was, it was a thought. It was a heavy thought that I would need to start working out to avoid back surgery. But it really didn't push me. What did push me was when I went to the gym, not the gym, I went to the beach with some of my boys. I called them up, we went out, and we get to the beach, and they all take their shirts off. And no one told me these guys have been working out. So they all take their shirts off. They got shoulders, chest, abs, things like that. And I'm sitting over here, 140 something pounds. And they're like, Frank, you taking your shirt off? I'm like, nope, sure not. Matter of fact, I'm tucking mine in. And then it was like, at that point, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start working out. So I sort of like started dipping into the gym, right? But then it was just, you know, it was more internal, right? And I thought that I was doing some things. Then one day I'm hanging out with two of my boys, and one of them says, Dang, Frank, is everything all right? And I was like, wow, what's up? He was like, man, like, why's your chest go backwards? And I'm like, dang, I never, I'd never thought of it like that, but that moment there, was like the third piece of the puzzle too. There was the accident, there was going to the beach and seeing my friends get all the attention from the ladies because of how they looked, and then there was this. So right then and there, I hung out, I stayed there. I stayed there with those two guys for about an hour or so. Um, Left, told them I had to go do some things or whatever. Literally left there, went to the 7-Eleven around the corner from my boy's house, got a Gatorade, um, went to the GNC that was next to LA Fitness, got some creatine. I don't know why. I just thought I needed creatine. I went to the gym, and that was probably about 3 hours after my boy, well, maybe about 2 hours after my boy had made that comment, hour and a half or so. And I've never stopped. And my honest motivation has always been to go to the beach and take my shirt off. And that's what I say. But what that means to me is that I I want to feel confident with who I am. And so that is my honest motivation. I have been confident, and it has nothing to do with becoming a professional athlete. I have been confident with who I am for a very long time based off the work that I do. And that is my honest motivation. And that is to continue to be able to walk in that confidence of going to the beach, going to the pool, and taking my shirt off. That is my honest motivation. And I remember once talking with a client, and she was I'd asked her the same question, why are we doing this? What's going on? And she said she just wanted to be healthy. And I was like, all right, well, fine. And watch what you eat and walk around your neighborhood 3, 4 times a night, about 2 times a week, and you'll be healthy. And she was like, no, 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 no. That's not quite what I meant. I was like, all right, well, let me ask you something. Did one day you get out of the shower and you clear away the steam from the mirror, and then you looked at yourself and you saw a version of yourself that you no longer wanted to be? And she was like, yeah, that's what it is. And I was like, well, that's your honest motivation. So no matter what we do when it comes to sticking to your meal plan, sticking to your workouts, remember that feeling when you saw the version of you that you didn't want to see anymore. And that's what's going to keep you pushing forward, because I can tell you anything. I can give you any plan you want. But if you don't push towards not seeing that version of you anymore, then this isn't going to work. This lady became one of my hardest working clients. And so I tell those stories to say that, your program or your workout or your goal has to fit one idea. What is it that you want to do? And then your program will align with that. Don't flip flop through different ideas. Stay true to your goal and to accomplishing your goal. And that's the key. Have your honest motivation and keep working towards that. Don't let anything sway you from it. All right. Second point I'm going to make, right, is that people love to compare themselves, their current state, to the progress of others. And you can't do that. I remember like an old rap lyric Jay-Z said back in the day, what you eat don't make me shit. You know what I mean? And so you have to understand that. I remember I had a client once who had signed up based on the progress of someone that he thought was in a similar place as him in getting ready for the journey. So when he started and he didn't see the results that the other guy was, or the other person was getting, that he felt his program was failing and was not a good program. When fact of the matter is, you can only focus on and compare yourself to who you were before you made actions to change who you are, no matter what you do. Now, there's a difference. If you're in bodybuilding, if you're in competitive bodybuilding, whether amateur or pro, you will be placed at a point where you're being compared to others. So I have to say that. However, the work you do leading to that point is based off you and you alone. It's going to be based off your effort, and you're the only one that can judge the effort that you put forth into achieving the goal you set. So comparing yourself to someone else is actually just taking away time that you could be thinking about a different way for you to attack whatever your areas of improvement are. Worry about you, focus on you, because you're the goal. It's your goal, and you can't, like, I remember I was having a conversation with this guy once, and he was saying like what he would do is if he were somebody else. Like, I was like, you can't say that. And he was like, yeah, I can. If I was this professional athlete, I think it was LeBron or something like that, I would do this and this and this. And I was like, well, first of all, you're not going to be able to change your DNA or chemical makeup to be that. You have absolutely no idea what it is to be that person. So you don't know what you would do in that place. Like, focus on you. You know what I mean? Like you ever have those conversations with somebody and you may be going through a low point, what is it? I remember I was working with this trainer once, and I was like right after my pop's mother passed, my grandmother passed, and I was like Frankie Rezekat's got a call, my grandmother passed away, and she's like, oh, that reminds me of when my grandfather passed away, and I was like, oh, okay, well, when did that happen? She was like, it was 3 years ago. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and walk away and deal with what I'm dealing with right now, and then we'll come back to you. Listen, whenever someone tells me they have something going on, my answers always start the same. I can only imagine, because that's all I can do. Like if someone tells me, man, this and this happened because, I did this because such and such happened. Like, hey man, I can only imagine how that must feel, because in all honesty, that's all I can do. I don't know your internal feelings. I don't know who you are. I only know what you tell me. So I can only imagine based off the information that you give me, so in life, I tell my clients, people are snowflakes. Everybody's different. You can only be you. That's it. We all hear it all the time, but still, the comparisons, you can only be you. Like, since college, people have told me, I've had friends. I remember somebody told me, they introduced me like, yeah, Frank, they told me how you would be. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, well, they told me that I would never meet anybody like you. And I was like, okay, I'm not offended. And you shouldn't. Like, I am a one of one. I pride myself on being a one of one. Sorry, I can see the camera and I can tell my lips is getting chapped. It's going on 6 a.m. here in the morning, so sorry. But I just had to get this workout. All right. Now, my third point is, people start strong within a program or their journey, and then they fall off after a while. That's really going to tie back into my first point of having your honest motivation. If you have a goal, you have a focus, then there's no way to fall off from it. I think what happens with people is that they don't notice the small steps along the way that are actually victories. Like, to be honest, like, okay, so you live a very comfortable, say, unhealthy life, right? And then you make the decision that you want to change. That's a win. That's a victory, because staying comfortable in the system that was causing you the state is easy, but it is a celebration to see yourself and be like, okay, I want to make a change. Now we celebrate that win and then we move on from it. I think the problem people have is that they start a journey like, I want to go from where I am today, day one, in 30 days, I want to lose 30 pounds. And I'll ask people like, okay, so have you ever stuck to a program where you lost 5 pounds and kept it off for 3 months? They're like, no. Okay, then how are, like, like, I understand the goal to lose 30, but let's try to do the things we have not been able to do yet. Like, what are your hurdles? Like, are you not able to tackle a meal plan? Like, so focus on that, on being able to making sure you don't eat a certain amount. Like, people that give the excuse of, I don't know what to eat. Well, if you're overweight, your problem is you eat too much. So it's not about what you eat. So what you need to do is then cut down how much you eat. How do you focus on that and regulate that? Write it down, you know? And then when these actions that you're doing are also victories and celebrations, because you're doing an audit of yourself and then you're holding yourself accountable and you're making steps on how to change. These are all wins before you get to, I lost 30 pounds. And I think the problem that people have is that they don't use those steps as though like this worked, this worked and then this worked and then this worked and I lost 30 pounds. No, they'll look at, okay, so this week I lost 4 pounds. This next week I lost 4 pounds. All right, so this third week I only lost 2 pounds. All right, so program sucks, fails, I'm out. Just keep moving forward. If you get to the week where you're like, damn, I didn't lose as much as I did. Okay, you notice that win. All right, so what was different? Now that's another win, another celebration, because now you're evaluating you're finding out what you did, what changes can be made to move you forward. You're learning yourself. These are wins. These are celebrations. On your fitness journey, you should learn who you are. You should be able to assess and be like, okay, so that works for me. This doesn't work for me. These are wins, and these are wins that happen on the way to losing 30 pounds. So stop fixating on, or people need to stop, if I don't go from 0 to here within 30 days, then I failed. No, if I can go from 0 to 0 to 0.08 and notice that, something needs to change, that's a win. And just keep winning. Don't minimize your wins. All right, so we are going to wrap this up. I've gone over 3 things that can help you along your way. You need an honest motivation, something that is going to pull you through, something that when you close your eyes, you see it. When you open your eyes, you see it. When you're by yourself, when you're with others, you see it, because it is your honest motivation. Point number 2, don't compare yourself to others, because the thing is, when you create that life and that body that you want for yourself, you're the only one going to put those clothes on. So focus on the individual that's going to put those clothes on, and that is you. Focus on you. Point number 3, celebrate the small wins. Of course, you want to lose 30 pounds. Losing 1 is still a victory. Losing 1.5 is a victory. Losing 2 is a victory. Gaining another 1 back, but understanding why it happened, is a victory. So keep pushing, stay consistent. If you need help, or actually, if this episode brought some value to you and you have some understanding of it, feel free to share it. Tell somebody to tap in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you need help with a meal plan or a workout plan, you already know, DM me. Follow me on Instagram at franklyfit_ fat loss expert. Outside of that, have a great day. And if you don't know, you will now. The motto is be grinding or be nothing. Peace.